Greetings, programs. Welcome to episode 8. The future is coming, everyone just relax. This one's a little different. Today we're talking about the future, and in specific, the future of the job market and society in general. I shall be looking at this from a first world, generally Western point of view, as much as what is happening that I shall be talking about is happening all across the Western world. And only the time frame seems to vary somewhat from country to country, rather than it's simply not happening in some places. So basically, unemployment is the future. Let's all just relax about that, eh? Now, unemployment is a thing, and depending on your country, it may be at record highs or record lows right now. But the nature of it is changing, and this time it's different. What's that you say, imaginary interviewer? People have said that before. What makes this time actually different? Glad you ask. Let's look at a few examples from our parents' and grandparents' time that they might have thought were the same as what's happening today. Back in the day, before the advent of farming technology, it took many people to work a farm. And to work that farm, all those people really needed was a brain that mostly worked and working arms and legs. Dig, hoe, fetch, carry, no problem for the able-bodied, and no vast brain power or bizarre mode of thought was needed. Maybe not the most fun job in the world, but you could do it. Then, when one person with a tractor or some other new gizmo could do in an afternoon what previously took an entire family all week to do, those people mostly had to look for new work. No problem, they still had those good arms and legs and a working brain, so they could do other things. Maybe better things, maybe worse, but there were things they could do. Building roads, working in factories, working in shops, that sort of thing. And as old jobs vanished, new industries opened up. And there were all new jobs, usually less backbreaking jobs that paid more. And that's nice, isn't it? So what's the big deal? Some old jobs will go away, and some new jobs will appear that never existed before. Same old, no change really. Except no, there is a change. And there is a trend that has been happening for a while, but is only now becoming visible. And there is an actual qualitative change which also relates to the trend. The trend? Less muscles, more brain. That's the trend. Well, it's good, right? We want to stretch our thinking muscles and not spend all day slogging with a hoe or picking potatoes or something, right? Sure, if you like that sort of thing. And not everybody does, but hey. But that's the problem. Previous jobs were to some extent based on the idea of a human body with the 2 arms and 2 legs approach. And there were not many jobs that only the strongest possible people could do. If there were, those jobs were typically modified until more average people could do them. After all, if you have some physical task that can only be done by an Olympic weightlifter, chances are good that very few people in the job market will be able to do it. So you adjust the task or break it up into smaller tasks until more average people can do it, and then you get yourself some workers. But the problem is those smaller jobs can be done by machines, with less people involved overall. And people need to make a living, so they need reasonable wages, which makes them expensive. And if one expensive machine can replace them, chances are good it will have paid for itself by the end of the year. And after that, it's pure profit. So even those places that don't like the idea of replacing a person with a machine will eventually have to, because their neighbors that do can use the money to upgrade their output, and or charge less, undercut you and take all your customers. So you will have to follow suit if you want to compete. What's that you say, imaginary interviewer? This has already happened and we're all good now? This is true, but it's happening again. There exist now, in 2018, self-driving cars and trucks that are already better drivers than any human. There are warehousing robots that run 24/7 in the dark and never make a mistake. It doesn't take long for a $40,000 robot to pay for itself, given that with minimal maintenance it can run 24/7 for years. No breaks, no sick leave. And the monetary gain from doing it this way in a warehouse is substantial, with some warehouses having double or triple the throughput in the same warehouse after the upgrade. See footnote number 1 about warehouse robots. And that means that those jobs go away. All those robots, handled by a management team and a maintenance crew, or even just a simple maintenance contract with some other company. Very few people. And that's to the advantage of the employer because they don't have to pay those expensive human wages. Consider minimum wage over a year, That is many thousands of dollars, and that's not that impressive a wage for a person. Now, the same sort of thing is happening with trucking. Self-driving trucks that can safely network with other trucks and drive less than a meter from another truck, taking advantage of the slipstream effect to lower drag and power usage. This shifts more cargo, faster and safer, and without clogging the roads. And those robots don't get tired, or overworked, or distracted, or have a bad day. See footnote number 2 for self-driving trucks. What's that you say, imaginary interviewer? That's just going to create new jobs maintaining those trucks and robots? No, not really. For starters, many of those jobs are already filled by the people who make regular trucks and forklifts. It's just now they switch to making automated trucks and fork robots now. And the people who maintain the old forklifts, they just learn the ins and outs of the new gear and keep on going. And consider, if the robots created as many jobs as they're replaced, and those jobs need wages, then the robots haven't really saved anybody any money, have they? So they either have to reduce the jobs, or swap high-skill, high-paying jobs with simpler, lower-paying jobs, otherwise they're not making any money. See footnote number 3 for a video on the rise of machines that goes over this in more detail. And this is happening with more than just simple jobs. Machine learning is taking out large numbers of management jobs, legal jobs included. All that sifting through mountains of paperwork looking for clues in the stock markets and shops, organizing lists, stocking, that kind of thing. The list goes on. Some projections slate something like 50% of all jobs in transportation, shipping, and related work in the US are going to go away in the next 20 years. And the same sort of thing is going to happen in other countries, if perhaps a few years later. And this is going to include similar losses in management. After all, why do you need a team of managers when you've got organizational software that lets the boss just get it all right first time? And so that leaves more people fighting for less jobs. But there's another worse layer behind all that. Look at the new jobs. What are they? Things like IT, YouTuber, programming, game development. There's more, and not all of them are pure computer stuff, but the general theme remains. It's more thinky stuff. And while that's not bad by itself, a lot of us enjoy thinky stuff, it is part of the problem. Because those jobs require a fair bit of brain power, and the right kind of mindset. Just having 110 IQ doesn't mean suddenly you are a computer programmer. It can be, and you can have that job, if you also have the right kind of mind for it. There is the same sort of problem with breaking the thinky jobs down into simpler chunks that you had with the physical task. If you can do that, so that ordinary people can do the job, then software systems probably can do it too. And they are even cheaper and easier to set up than physical machines. And at some point, you will reach a spot where ordinary people cannot do the jobs that do remain. It's okay for you if you went to university and have 120 IQ, but what happens when all the remaining jobs are such that they can only be feasibly done by folks with 130 IQ? And on top of that, it's not just IQ, you've got to have the right mind for it. For example, the US military cannot use soldiers with an IQ of 83 or lower, which is approximately 10% of the population. And we're not talking about elite field commanders or commandos or whatever. This is the basic soldier with a gun. And it's only going to get worse as each soldier nowadays has to learn new and better tactics and learn to use new and more complex equipment. Being a soldier is more than carrying a gun and doing what you're told. And being a soldier was one of the last classic jobs that anybody could do with working arms and legs and a working brain. See footnote number 4, dealing with IQ and some of the fallout of it. And it's not all about raw IQ. Just because your brain works well does not mean that you're automatically going to be an AI programmer or whatever it is that the future holds for jobs. You don't necessarily need a vast IQ to be a YouTuber, I'm evidence of that, or a salesperson. But a lot of folks just don't have the right mindset and personalities for such things. And not everything can be taught. And look at the jobs. None of them are going in the direction of getting simpler. And this is not just some chance to bag on folks that have the bad luck to have IQs that aren't stellar. The same thing is going to happen to everyone. It will just take longer for more complex jobs with greater intellectual requirements. So, Where is this headed? Why, thank you for asking, imaginary interviewer. What will happen exactly is not certain. We don't know. And the human race systematically sucks at predicting the future. But we can tell some of the shape of it. More and more jobs will lean towards the personal and humanistic. Counselors, teachers, coaches, speakers, parents, and so forth. Jobs where getting the best thing, the cheapest, and the fastest is not the goal. Jobs where a person wants another person to talk to and interact as part of the process, not as a simple side effect of getting the stuff they're after. And that change is already occurring. Some of you may recall grandparents complaining about how it's all office jobs these days and nobody does an honest day's work in the insert industry here. Mines, factory, farm, what have you. But even with that change, which is already happening, at some point in the future, and I'm talking 20 to 30 years here, not 300, there will be a large percentage of the population that cannot be employed. Partly because there are just not enough jobs to go around, and so those jobs that are available are usually assigned to the best of the best if they can manage it. But what about the rest? Those folks literally cannot do the jobs that are available because they require resources that those people just don't possess, whether it be a specific mindset or even raw intellectual horsepower. And because our societies are largely capitalistic, there is no incentive to not have that happen. It is always in the capitalist's best interest to make a better product with lower ongoing costs, regardless of the fallout for the people. Because if they don't do it, their competitors will, and they will go bust. See footnote number 5 for video about this in greater detail. Humans need not apply. So, what can be done? Well, for starters, it's going to be the end of capitalism as we know it. No, I'm not suddenly embracing communism or whatever. But capitalism as we have it now literally cannot survive in conditions like that. The people who own the companies that make the things cannot survive if there are no people with money to buy the things. And this goes whether we're talking about luxury items or food. If the people have no money to buy it, you can't sell it to them. No profit for you. So either the assumption that tokens of exchange, aka money, will not be used in that way, and some other method of exchange will take over, forum votes, thumbs up, forum plus ones, who knows, or something else. The owners of the company will be okay. It's always better to be rich than not. Having money is options, and that's never a bad thing. But the end point of things as they are now is that there will be a minority of people who own all the stuff, and they can't sell it to anyone. So either they have their wealth siphoned off in some form of taxes and redistributed to the rest, which is more or less what happens now, or some other rather more dystopian thing happens. See, wealth is power, but only as long as other people agree with you. If you pay a person to do a thing for money, that person has to agree to do it. If they don't agree, then what? Money will not lift objects or open doors by itself. It's only a method of persuading other people to do things for you. If that person you want to do the things for you says no, then what? If you pay another person to do the thing, or even to punish the first person, you have the same situation. They also have to agree to go along for the reward you're offering. What if that person says no? Sure, somebody will probably say yes if you pay them enough. But then that person has the same repeating problem, an infinite regress. Their money is only worth anything as long as other people agree. If someone offers to give you money to do a thing that you don't want to do, like beat somebody up, they might be able to persuade you by throwing more and more money at you until you decide it's eventually worth it. Hey, if you make enough money, maybe you can split it with the guy you just beat up. But what if you don't? Beyond a certain point, more money doesn't help. And if what they are asking you to do is sufficiently repugnant to you, no amount of money is going to change it. And where will you spend your money? The rich don't need it. They have all the stuff. And what if the poor people just make some other kind of economy and don't take your money? The thing is, capitalism has only worked inside a society that helps to control it. They profit from your work, you profit from them providing the means to work, and everybody gets taxed to provide the public services that are not amenable to capitalism as a method of management, like infrastructure, public roads, lights, and that sort of thing. And this is key. Those who profit from society at large owe society some responsibility. Exactly how much can be debated, but the responsibility is clear. However much the capitalists may not like it, if every advancement they embrace makes the rest of society increasingly irrelevant, they still have a responsibility to the society that allowed them to profit such. They don't get to abandon the rest of society just because we have a society that lets them get away with it. So how does this all end? Well, how I think it will end up, or hope I should say, is that there will be a post-scarcity civilization. We will not be competing for food, or living, or internet access, or any of the relatively basic stuff. We will have those in such abundance that no one will profit from making them, and some form of government or other will oversee and apportion it, probably something like Star Trek. The crops and raw materials will be largely gathered by machines with only minimal human input. Those that choose to work in these areas will be rewarded in some way for their work. The fabrication of materials will be likewise largely automated. People will not need to work, but humans being humans, they will still need activity to give their life meaning and structure. Just as today, humans will provide them. Hobbies, social activities, sport, adventure, art, the same things that well-to-do people do right now, but without the need to work or to have large investments for. Think of it as if each and every person had made good investments at some point in the past, and now had sufficient income that they only had to work at jobs that they liked, by choice. Sounds a bit sci-fi. But how long ago was it that self-driving cars, robots, and trucks were sci-fi? The internet? Smartphones? Anybody remember back then when the internet made a funny noise and you couldn't talk on a phone while it was happening? Yeah. We're living in the sci-fi right now. Most of us just unaware of it. Hell, with a 3D printer, drone motors, and batteries, you can literally build a flying car. And that's the thing. Something has to happen. If we work to it, we can get the super happy sci-fi ending. If we don't, we get the horrible dystopian ending. The one where the rich have more and more problems as the wealth gets more and more concentrated, until they end up separated from society, and the rest of us have to do some other thing. And this is already happening with things like collectives, labour exchanges, green economies, and that sort of thing. Likely, there will be some intermediate steps. Higher taxes, universal basic income, the 30-hour work week, the 20-hour work week. Don't forget, the 40-hour work week is a relatively new invention. So it's happened before. Exactly which of these is the best move, well, that will be in the purview of economists and social scientists, not some random person on the internet. What we have to do about all this is think. Be aware of what's happening and what can happen, and accept that the rules have changed. To care more about our fellow humans than about a number on a computer someplace. I'm talking about bank balances here. There is plenty to go around, and no reason it should not be shared around for the benefit of all, even if that sounds a bit hippie-ish. Give up the current paradigm of, you must have a job, because you don't have to have one. And quit giving people a hard time if they don't have one, or just can't find one. And try not to panic when things start to change, because the person you're looking down on today could be you in a few years' time, and we're all in this together. So relax. The future is coming, and you're probably going to be out of a job. And that is okay. That's all for this week. Tune in next week for episode 9, Why Don't Conservatives Like Trans People? Which, fingers crossed, I will be sharing with the Lavender Lady, if she can clear some time on her schedule. See you then. Bye for now.